Welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DeFrancesco, your personal financial technician. Whether you've had years of success in your business or are just starting out, High Lift Financial can help you create a vision for your business, life, and family, and align these for generational wealth. So as they say, what happens in your life affects your business. And now, on to the show. Well, hello and welcome to Your Business, Your Life with, again, me, Matt DeFrancesco. And I'm excited because I just actually last week I was at the Collision Industry Conference and at SEMA. I got some great information there. And I've had the opportunity to meet my guest actually at a different concert at our Business Enterprise Institute conference, Laura Miller. And she's an expert in AI. I know that's kind of a big buzzword right now. So I thought I'd bring Laura on to kind of talk about where AI is going and some of the misconceptions that people have about it. So Laura Miller, she's an innovative and logical-minded AI and ethicist specialist with an extensive background in creating ethical AI policies, developing strategies and processes to overcome challenges, and provide practical guidance in fast-paced, high-growth companies from startups to Fortune 500 companies. And I think the thing that intrigues me most is that she is an ethicist too. So it's about how do we use AI ethically. So that's what I'm really excited to talk to her about. She's the director of ethics at Shadowing AI. It's an AI-powered career development platform and also serves as an advisor, council member, and task force leader for various organizations and initiatives in the AI and ethics space, and is a presenter, panelist, and keynote speaker on ethics and technology topics. So again, got an expert here. If anybody ever wants to email the show with any questions that I can forward to Laura, I'd be more than happy to do that. But Laura, welcome to Your Business, Your Life.
Hi, so that was a heck of an introduction. I kept thinking, geez, I want to be her. And then I was like, wait, that is me.
That's
So
right.
it's been a fun, challenging, just wonderful space to be in. And I'm just so glad to be here to have conversations about ethics, AI, technology, society, where we're going, what we're doing.
Right. Well, and I think they're huge issues these days. I mean, I think in a sense, the world's kind of lost a little bit of its course. And so I think any technologies that come out, and I have some friends that are like, it's all evil. I have others
Yes.
that are, it's all good. And to me, it's like nothing's intrinsically bad or good. It's in how you use it, correct?
Yeah, that's true. I do think that, technology itself is technology. I mean, we're not afraid of our toasters or our microwaves or
Right.
even our microwaves or toasters or, well, ovens that we can use our phones to even set or, to remind some new refrigerators have panels on the front where, you can hook it up to your phone. It'll even tell you if you're out of milk. I think that some healthy perspective is always a good thing. Are there reasons to be concerned about technology? There are.
Right.
AI, yes, absolutely. It grows faster, reaches places quicker, and expands everything it touches. So, with something with those kinds of qualities and capabilities, we absolutely have to pay attention to what it's actually doing.
Mm.
But most importantly, not only how it's built, but what it's doing in our world and how it's affecting the people in our world and the kinds of ways it's going to show up in our lives.
Right.
So I would say, and I often say in talks that I give, it's right to be, if you're going to be excited, be smart excited. And if
Right.
you're concerned or worried, make sure that that's informed, that you understand what's going on before believing every headline that you see, because headlines sell, but it doesn't always
Right.
mean that they're entirely accurate.
That's isn't that the truth? Isn't that the
Yeah.
truth? And again, I think there's a lot of misconception that's out there and there's a lot of fear too, I know like right now, the UAW's on strike and some people look at that strike and say, they're asking for pretty big demands, 40%
Mhm.
pay increases, pensions, but a lot of the stuff I've been reading is that the union actually understands the loss of jobs that are going to happen because of AI. And so they're trying to protect their membership, those that keep jobs that they're well compensated for, and those that don't still have their pensions that are available. I mean, you might know a little bit more about that than I do, but it's kind of what I'm understanding of the whole situation.
Oh, that's true. But I also think that it's good to have experts, human experts, who can oversee the AI and make sure that it's making choices in a consistent way that seem correct, that there aren't aberrations that are appearing, that, sometimes there's loss over time where an AI can become less accurate. You need humans in the loop. AI should not just be deployed and the humans turn around, walk away, and just think it'll sit there and do what normal technology in the past has done. We download something to our laptop and it's a new app and it's great. We play with it. Download it to your phone, also fun. Great. We play with it.
Right.
But AI kind of takes on a life of its own. It does stuff even when we're not doing stuff with it.
Right.
We need to be on top of that. It's not just a set it and forget it kind of technology.
Right.
And I think that maintaining a good quality workforce is going to allow you to incorporate AI, but then leverage it for success. If you don't have people that know overseeing it, then you don't know what it's doing or know that it's doing what you want it to. So,
Right.
the quality of your AI matters, but what's going to matter even more is the quality of people that you have involved with it.
Yes, no, that makes complete sense. And I know we kind of jumped in, so I'm going to back up just 1 second and just to give a little bit of background to the audience about how you got involved with, which, it's the old saying, which came first, the chicken or the egg? So which came first, AI knowledge or your ethics knowledge? So,
I would say my society people knowledge. So,
okay.
I came up through Fortune 500 companies. I was in corporate originally, but
Okay.
I got all these weird projects. I got the projects where it's like HR had an idea, nobody knows what to do with it, so we'll give it to her. Say State Farm Corporate, there was an open your mind, gender, race, and age.
Mm.
They're like, oh, we'll give it to her because I was doing design at the time. I was doing graphic design,
Oh,
but I was doing what I call thoughtful design. It always had an element of ethics. It always had an element of impact to people. So, Women's History Month, Black History Month, back when we were doing them by months.
right.
Um, and as well as those projects like Open Your Mind, Gender, Race, and Age, as they sought to incorporate people from overseas in a very Midwest lifestyle and recognizing the kind of adjustment that it took on both sides to make those kinds of relationships work, productive, and fruitful. I
Okay.
loved those projects so much so that I put myself back into school
Mm.
and was wondering where I could look into those things. And the home that I found was philosophy because it's the home of ethics.
Yes.
Now, some people hear the word ethicist and they start thinking either some kind of godlike thing, or they start thinking of, somebody who's going to give you a whole bunch of rules or edicts about, like almost religious like.
Yeah,
And,
morality police, I was thinking.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah, morality police. And in truth, 75% of philosophers who apply to law school are accepted.
Mm,
So, what a lot of people seem to forget is, well, philosophers are packing a pretty solid mind, I hope.
yeah.
That's the intention of those who educate us in it, is that we will be logical and we will function from logic and we will use knowledge. And, so I can do Boolean logic. So when people, kind of are like, oh, well, ethics is that fluffy stuff. I don't know. So I would say that my care for people dominates everything that I do.
Right.
So when technology exploded, and it's been exploding, AI is not brand new. People
No.
seem to think it's new. It's new to us being able to talk to it using words like these. It's
Right.
not new. But technology has always fascinated me both in what it was capable of doing for us
Mhm.
and what we might not let it do for us and allow it to do other things instead. So it was natural progression. I didn't really notice I was in a different field. It doesn't even really feel like I'm in a different field. Do I talk about AI and capabilities and whether or not it can forget and what a data set looks like and how to clean what? Sure.
Right.
But it still, for me, comes back down to it needs to be built well. It needs to respect people, their rights, their dignity, their privacy, all of those good things. And then there's a third criteria most people don't talk about. It needs to be a good partner for us, a
Mhm.
good partner in crime, kind of to a certain extent. Let's not go with crime though.
That's
Some
right.
people get bad words there. But you know what I mean? It's supposed to be your buddy. It's
Yeah.
supposed to ride shotgun with you.
Ri
And when you put those three things together, which essentially is risk, rights, and this relationship idea, which means it needs to give us quality information, not lie to us, not take us down slippery slopes that are kind of wild. When you put those three things together, you end up not at responsible technology, not at trustworthy technology. If you put those three things together, you have a
Mhm.
shot at getting ethical technology.
Mm,
And that's where I'm at.
okay.
That's what I'd like to see happen.
Right. Yeah. No, and I think that makes complete sense. And so, you know, as fast as it's growing, I want to talk specifically about the benefits of AI. And I think, one area that I'd like to touch on is just in the automotive industry, because
Sure.
again, I deal with collision shops. And so a lot of the listeners may be interested in, especially with collision repair, when you're dealing with AI on a wrecked vehicle, what are some of the benefits and maybe some of the challenges there?
Well, there's going to be benefits and challenges on both sides because don't forget, if you're working on repairs, you're also dealing with insurance companies. I work for
Yes.
State Farm,
Right. I
and
know.
they might be using AI to automate exactly what repairs are needed based on what you report has happened to a vehicle.
Okay.
Now, your experience as an automotive repair technician might tell you that there's some other things that need to be on that list, but they might not necessarily match the list that the insurance company has.
Yes.
So then you end up with this disconnect between what you, as a person who wants to give back to an owner or a safe vehicle,
Right.
and what the algorithm might be recommending, either on both sides, because I'm sure that there are algorithms or will be that will be meant for technicians. There will also be a version that will be meant for insurance companies. They may not be the same version.
Right.
So you could end up with different advice and different recommendations. So then you come down to, does my algorithm beat your algorithm when it
Right.
comes down to recommendations? And what it's really going to come down to are the people, the one on the insurance side and the tech, to have a conversation about not only what the recommendations of the AI are, but what it should really look like and how close it came
Right.
and what that means. But that's why you need those humans in the loop that I mentioned originally. Because if you don't know better, you'll also use your AI, get recommendations, you'll do exactly what it said. And maybe that's not enough. Or the insurance company will give you a recommendation and say, just do this. You don't question it, you do that. And it's not enough.
Right.
So you still need people to have the conversations where, okay, in this instance, it didn't nail it, it didn't get it quite right.
Right.
And we need to take it as advisement,
Right.
but not rule.
Right.
So it's a good getting started point. It's our are we on the same page point. It's a, oh, you know what? That's a small thing. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that should be on there too. It's that kind of thing, but it can work both ways.
Right.
But you need a human who's receptive to that conversation on both sides so
Right.
that you can still have that conversation.
That goes, we were talking offline. I was telling you about the conversation I was having with my wife where, she read this article about, Elon Musk was talking about that AI is going to eliminate all jobs that are out there. And I was disagreeing with her. And I said, I think AI is going to be able to do a lot of things that
Mhm.
humans can do, and it will eliminate some jobs, but anything that's relational, I have a hard time understanding how AI is going to be able to take over that. Like the work that I do, working with collision shop owners, especially in creating, multi-generational legacies with their families, and also trying to manage the transitions that they're trying to do. 80% or probably 90% of what I do is psychology.
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of, you have to, you've got to kind of take both sides. And I see that in the collision industry, one of the big battles right now, especially with the independent shops, is, they're trying to make what is their space. And it seems that the direction the independent shop is going is getting OEM certifications, repairing the vehicle as the manufacturer built the vehicle, because again, it's about the passenger safety. And this becomes the battle that
Mhm.
happens between the insurance companies and the repairer. And it was interesting. We do every month, we have what's called the collision cocktail hour. And there's a panel of us and probably anywhere between 25 and 60 shop owners that come up, and we talk about the different issues out there. And I brought on one of my clients who has really been big. He's kind of transitioned where he is in the business. He's really big about building culture within his business. But he said, he made a comment, I think it really struck a lot of the owners that were on the call, is his whole philosophy is about treating everybody with respect and dignity. And it's not just even in his employees, it's the insurers. And he said, what I found is that there's battles. Yes, there's always going to be those battles. But if I'm treating the insurer and the adjuster with dignity and respect, all right, I tend to get more that way. And he goes,
Yeah.
I'd rather take little incremental steps than to just get the whole big ball of wax in the beginning, as long as I'm maintaining the dignity of that person. Just any thoughts on that?
Well, people skills, I mean, we can, and we have. I mean, AI right now, generative AI can use exclamation points and it understands words of influence and, it does sales pitches and creative writing pretty well.
Right.
But, so far as forming a relationship, there are some people who have some unhealthy relationships with technology. There are
Right.
some people who have fallen in love with bots that, were meant to mimic a relationship.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, it's still mimicking and trying to be more like us in what we do naturally.
Right.
That's always going to come more naturally to us. For instance, I played flute when I was younger. I was first chair.
Oh.
I practiced all summer, like 8 hours a day. I'm sure my siblings wanted to either break it or, stab out their eardrums, some craziness. But it brought me to first chair. And I was very, very good, technically skilled. But there was a student that attended my school, and she was just gifted. I mean, she just was. It was incredible. She didn't have to try. She didn't have to study for hours on end. There wasn't a training program she had to take. And instead, it was just beautiful music,
Mhm.
you know? And I think we need to understand that there still are distinctions between us as humans and our technology who sounds like us and who we can train to sound like us and whose voice can copy ours, a little creepy sometimes, and do those kinds of things. But they're never quite going to be us doing us in our way.
Right.
And I think that that's an important distinction to make when they say that they're trying to create technology that can mimic humans. They kind of mean a generic all-purpose human, and there are very few of us that are actually that. Instead, we have our unique idiosyncrasies, our interests, our personalities, where we pause, how we talk,
Mhm.
um, and the way that we relate to others that's just ours. And while technology might be able to take my words, I've made videos there on my wall where it's saying my words. It still doesn't hit the same way, I hope, as me saying, and I've been told, as me saying them.
Right.
So I think we need to recognize that there is a human distinction here. And that as much as technologists are excited that we can create technology that can really benefit us
Mm.
in its best situation for you individually, it will superpower you, not replace you as a superpower.
So, eh, do I
Sure.
guess what I'm
Got a
taking
little
from what you're
philosophical,
saying.
sorry.
Well, no, 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 no. And I think that's great. And I think, to what I'm taking from you to saying is that AI is a tool. I mean, because yes, there's, we have things like emotions and gifts and talents and skills that cannot always be replicated by, but we also have found it's like, you know, me forgetting to put my phone on to do not disturb and to get, you were sitting on the Zoom call and I'm calling you like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm here, these little, these mental mistakes that we can do. AI can sometimes help us to work through that. Am I
Sure.
correct in kind of what I'm saying here, that some of the deficiencies that we may have, usually maybe even just in logical thinking, because again, emotion gets involved, AI can benefit us there.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to the actual relational aspect of it and the true gifts that we're given, AI cannot necessarily do that. Am I understanding what you were saying correctly?
Yeah, it's just gonna be it would be like if you took a generic person,
Right.
almost devoid of personality, lived experience, life experiences, lesson learned, all of those things that make you uniquely you, and you
Right.
deleted them across a large spectrum of humanity, and then you turned that into an algorithm. That's where we're headed. That's kind of the best case scenario, is it can be a very neutral version of you, but it's not you,
Right.
it's I know facts and I know figures and I can do math and I can organize your calendar and that's still different than you. You still bring something to the table that even the best version of it can't, which
Right.
is uniqueness, distinctness, you,
Yeah. It's,
you know?
I'm reading this book right now called 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And, their whole premise is that when you try to 2x something, when you try to double something,
Right.
that you actually have to do double the work. When you 10x, you've got to kind of get outside of your box now. And this is where you really have got to define what is your unique ability and
Right.
take the other 80% away from that. So then you can focus on your unique ability. I see the correlation here because I
Oh,
think AI
absolutely.
can be something that helps you to take that 80% off. Like me, I am not a detail person. I mean, I struggle with that all the time, but I've hired people that are better at that for me. So I know from like
Right.
doing administration, I pass all of that off. And I've had
Right.
clients that call me, "Hey, can you do this, do that?" No, talk to Charnel
Right.
because it's not my strength, and I
Right.
want her to handle all that stuff. Where my strength is in the relational aspect and helping people to walk through and help them to create the scenarios that they want out of life. So I'm kind of seeing AI is kind of fitting that
Mhm.
80% that we're not necessarily good at,
Right.
but sometimes we're afraid to let it go because it's our comfort zone.
Right. Well, and then the thing is, and it's available all the time. It's 24/7. Depending on which version of whatnot and free or not that you use, there's an expense involved, but it can
Right.
handle a lot of that stuff. But the way that I tend to think of AI, or what just came to me, is it should be, because I have multiple conversations with different people in different fields.
Yes.
But whenever somebody is looking at something, I always think of, like, what is that plus one other thing? So, you can use AI and it can help you become great at sales or people, or it can help you manage calendars, or it can do that kind of a thing. But what is that one thing that you're bringing in addition to that? Because everybody else is going to have AI too.
Right.
So if we all have AI, yay.
Mhm.
If we all have AI, what's the difference? And the difference is you. So it
Right.
should be what you bring to the AI that makes the experience with you, even if it's AI powered, unique, distinct, memorable, and all of those great things that allow us to recognize each other and then, our incredible capabilities. But it should be about what you're bringing also to the conversation with AI, not just what AI is bringing to you, but like, what is that thing that sets you apart? What is that thing that lights you up? That thing is still very much a part of you,
Right.
and how you do it is going to be different than other people. I'm a different kind of AI ethicist than many out there. That's good for both
Right.
them and me, because they'll
Exactly.
have their people and I'll have mine, and that works. So, I don't really look at AI as replacing. There will be some job loss. There are. Let's face it, we use Google for a lot of things. Traditional libraries have kind of really died down. I teach at universities, so I'm familiar with that. I
Right.
still make them go to the library because I do.
Good.
But, sometimes, things do change. The world does change.
Right.
But no matter how far we've come, even with our revolutions so far,
Mhm.
there's always been value in being the person behind the technology, or the person supporting the machine, or the person supporting the technology. We've
Right.
never really gotten to the point where there wasn't a value add for being you,
Okay. Yeah.
So I think you need to keep that. I think you need to remember that. And I think you need to lean into it, especially if you have a career where it's like, wow, AI can really see a lot of impact here. Okay. But then what can you bring in addition to that? First of all, you should probably experiment with the AI and know what it's doing to your field and your industry. But
Okay.
then what is the other thing that you can do that sets you apart, makes you distinct, and maybe in a good world, if we want to be strategic, something that would be a little bit harder for AI to do.
Right. Can you give me an example of something like that?
People skills is one. You brought it yourself.
Right.
Which is, what? I trust AI to do technical stuff like figure out the wording of an advertisement. But if somebody needs to make a phone call or send a very personal email to someone, or needs to recognize our previous relationship that spanned years, yeah, that needs to come from me. That's
Right.
not a generic will do. Now, you can still use AI to get you started, but it's
Mhm.
still going to put your twist on things. It should still sound like it came from you, not that 87 other people who asked for the same parameters got the exact same thing. If that were the case,
Right.
what would make yours stand out?
Well, and humans can recognize that. It's
Yeah.
interesting. I was reading somewhere about social media posts, and there's a lot of companies out there, especially like, being in the financial service industry. I run into this a lot where, there you can hire these companies and they will put all this content out for you, but it's all canned content. And they found that the response rates are, I can't even remember what the percentage was, but it's tremendously higher when it's a personal content. When it's me talking to you, all right, and
Yeah.
I'm tripping over my words. I'm not nearly as eloquent as you. So, but there's something real about that. And I think
Yes.
people resonate with that.
I think people, we have to understand that while we launched ChatGPT into society, that largely we had not prepared for it, hadn't educated anyone on it. And most people even missed the fact that it was supposed to be a beta test and then it went live and took on a life of its own.
Wow.
This wasn't supposed to be the final iteration of it. They're iterating as we go because everybody went, yay. So, nothing is working the way that they expected, but none of us, well, some of us in tech knew what it could do and what it couldn't, but by and large, there hasn't been a whole lot of education for regular businesses, regular industries, regular people to even understand what it does, how it does it, why you can't do some things, why you shouldn't. We have courts using it to make sentencing recommendations. I mean, people have gone all in. We have attorneys submitting, chat GPT cases that don't exist to judges. I mean, we've got some, Houston, we have some, well, no, we're not in Texas right now, but
Right.
we've got some serious problems
Right.
that we need to address when it comes to education, knowledge. And look, this is how this stuff works. We have businesses who are using it who have given no instructions to anybody who works there
Right.
about what to do with it or what not to do with it or how to do it or if you even should. But one thing that we are familiar with, though, is we're pretty far into technology, especially here in the United States, and fairly tech savvy in the fact that a lot of people at least figured out how to use it. That's why
Right.
there's so many members who are using it.
Mhm.
But there's a lot that goes into how to do this, how to do this well, and to recognize it. But we do recognize technology. I'm not at all surprised that
Right.
we recognize like there's something about that post that doesn't sound right. And we do that. Our intuition recognizes to a certain extent human imperfection
Mhm.
and human awkwardness of did you forget the meeting, no, I'm there, did you not, the
Right.
pop-up was hidden behind the other windows, oops.
Yeah.
But the one thing about technology is we're training so hard to make it perfect, and we do need to address bias and the harms that come with it.
Go
We're
ahead.
not perfect,
Yeah.
so we're going to recognize something that seems too perfect. We're going to recognize something that seems to have missed the human part, and we're going to somehow, and we do, just intuitively recognize that.
Right. So that's what kind of leading me. So some of the dangers that and things that we need to kind of be aware of
Mhm.
out there with AI. So well, we talked a little bit about that before we got on.
Sure. So there's some challenges when it comes to first transparency and understanding how an algorithm makes a choice, makes a recommendation, what went into it, how did it get there
Right.
is something that's important. When I look at transparency, because I also approach it from a rights perspective and people, I look at transparency at also you knowing when it's being used. If I'm getting my car fixed, do I know how involved AI was in that process? Do I trust it? Do I want to ask questions because of it? A lot of times that's considered kind of background, and you don't necessarily let people know that it was an influence in what you're doing. There's a
Right.
lot of secrecy and keeping it on the down low.
Mhm.
So that would be one thing with transparency. Bias, look, we're the trainers of AI. We are essentially AI's parents or grandparents. It's learning from us, it's learning from how we talk. It can be fun to say, let's break the AI chatbot, whether it's on Twitter, or teenagers or younger people using Snap or whatever the case is.
Right.
But if they go to take those public conversations and use them as a data set, what did you just teach it? And is that really going to benefit your career aspirations or long term goals for society, your children, for us, or for whomever? We
Right.
have a responsibility and an obligation to be aware that we are training the data set.
Right.
Another thing, there's this conversation about what's legal and what's not.
Mhm.
There's this big push for legislation, and what's that going to look like? Please know whether you're a business owner or whether you're a user. What's legal is the bare minimum. It is literally, you can't sue me. That's all. And while that helps your attorneys, remember, just think like one,
Right.
While that makes your attorneys feel better because their whole job is to make sure to minimize your exposure and your liability, it's seldom going to make your users or your customers feel better because they expect you not to get sued, but they also want to know that you're doing more than that.
Right.
Like, okay, good, you didn't get sued. Okay, so like, what good stuff are you doing for me?
Right.
And it's usually, well, we didn't get sued. Well, okay, but that's not a good sales pitch.
Yeah.
You can ask AI, I promise it'll tell you that.
Uh-huh.
Or at least fingers crossed.
Right.
But so there's those kinds of issues. There's bias, there's privacy. Nobody's reading privacy policies. So
Uh-huh.
I'll give you a hint. If you don't want to read privacy policies and don't want to pay an attorney to read one, I cannot guarantee that this is 100% accurate, but at least it's doing something and trying.
Right.
You can take a privacy policy and copy it.
Mhm.
Go into the free version of ChatGPT,
Okay.
type a prompt that says, give me a privacy report based on the following privacy policy. Explain to me where my exposure is, explain to me where my risk is, explain to me what kind of data could get loose. Give me the down low on this privacy policy. Paste the privacy policy, hit return. It'll give you a report and say, well, based on this, it looks like your data could be sold. Based on this, it looks like your data could be used for that. Based on this, it can actually tell you. And then when it tells you, then you go to somebody like your CTO or whoever's in charge of your tech and you say, I'm worried about these things. And you hold up the paper and you say, I'm worried about these things. This is the policy it came from. Do you think we need to be worried? Because
Right.
you still need human oversight.
Right.
So, do you think I need to be worried? Now, you can ask ChatGPT or similar technology follow-up questions. You said I should be worried about my privacy. It could get loose somewhere. Where did you find that in this policy? And it'll give you the sentence or the paragraph, or at least direct you to it was under this section.
Right.
So you can do small things to deal with, or at least help with privacy, bias, transparency, including letting your customers or clients know you're using it if it affects their outcomes, especially in the automobile industry, their safety.
Right.
Your
Exactly.
job is to give them back a car that they're safe in,
Right.
and they need confidence in that process.
Yes.
So you can say, yes, we used AI, but our master mechanic looked it over and we came to an agreement with the insurance company and we stand behind this because
Right.
ultimately you're going to stand behind it because if something goes wrong, they're coming back to you. They're not going to the AI company.
Right.
They're coming to your shop and
Right.
asking you the hard questions.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there's a lot of harms. There's a lot of things to pay attention to in writing prompts, best practices, things not to put into it, like your customer's email address, how much their bill was, any private or confidential information.
Right.
I don't really want to make a shameless plug, but I did put a list of these things on my business website so people
Okay.
can go there and see things not to put into generative AI,
And
the
what is
things
that
to do.
website? Yeah, we'll also put in the show notes
Yeah,
too.
it's nextgenethics.com.
Okay.
If you go there, there's a business page specifically for business owners. There's an AI ethics 101 page that can be for anyone. If you're a business user and you've been intimidated and haven't embraced it yet, hit the 101 page, then hit the business page. There are free resources. There's do not list. There's mentions about laws. There's all sorts of stuff that I tried to put there. And if you think you need something that's not there, tell me, I'll add it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I love that you brought up about the privacy statements, because that's becoming actually the last two collision industry conferences. We talked about that because it is an issue.
Yes.
Vehicles now are computers on wheels. And, at this point, there's every vehicle has about 30,000 different data points, and they're expecting in the next 15 years that they're going to have 500,000. And they're
Yeah,
probably going to end
wireless.
up having more data than this thing right here.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So I think, being able to use AI in that way can be a very beneficial thing for a shop owner too. So,
Well, and like I said, I would look at it as a getting started point. I wouldn't
right.
consider it an end all be
Oh
all
yeah.
because it can hallucinate, it can make things up, it can pull things out of nowhere, which is
Right.
why sometimes asking if you see something weird, where in that policy was that? Tell me to the section,
Right.
and then you can see if it can give you an answer to it, or
Right.
you can take it to your technology person and say, I have questions about this one.
Right.
Don't forget the humans in the loop. They
Yeah,
still have superpowers too, which
exactly.
is they can sort out whatever gaps AI has left or whatever things have left you confused or the things that are unclear.
Right. So,
And we need that.
Well, Laura, we're about at time, so I just want to give you a minute. Is there anything else that you want to add to our conversation? We could go on and on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I
We
think
could do
what I'm
this
gonna,
for a lifetime.
I know
Uh,
exactly.
I probably will.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is anybody that's listening to this that may have some questions that they'd like to pose to Laura, you can email us at podcast@highliftfin.com. And we can get those and maybe have you back on to be able to
Sure.
actually
Go
get
through the questions.
yeah, get some of those questions answered.
Yeah,
So if
what I
you're
would
up for
say
doing
is
it.
it's just remember that if you're gonna be excited and you're all in, be smart excited. And if you're scared or thinking it's intimidating, please know that small businesses in particular are looking to adopt this in mass and in large numbers.
Mhm.
If you're not using it, I can't promise you, as a matter of fact, I can probably play almost the opposite, your competitors are.
All right.
This is not the time to necessarily get left behind, but it is a great time to build knowledge, be working on figuring it out, which is what majority of people are doing right now. That's why I'm on shows.
That's right.
But if you're nervous about it, learn about it. And if
Right.
you're excited about it, be smart excited about it,
Right.
but keep those humans in the loop. They matter a great deal, especially, well, and I think forever, but now especially.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I guess my bit of advice would be smart excited
Yeah.
and curious if cautious.
Yeah.
And if you do those two things, you'll be learning and, well, you'll do good, I hope, or at least
That's
be on your way.
That's great. That's awesome. So, well,
Yeah.
Laura, thank you so much. I think this is just this stuff fascinates me. And like I said, we could go on and on and on, but I know anybody who's listening needs to get to work. So
Yeah, I know that feeling.
they probably been sitting in their parking lot like, oh my gosh, this is
I'm
great.
listening to my phone buzz next to me.
That's right. Yes, exactly. So, but anyway, so again, Laura, thank you so much. And the last thanks always goes to you, the audience. Thank you for listening to Your Business, Your Life with me, Matt DiFrancesco. And if you've not subscribed to the podcast, please click the subscribe button below. That way, anytime a new episode comes out, it'll download directly to your device and you'll be able to hear great guests like Laura and many of the others that we've had on too. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a 5-star review, even with the podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, Google Play, whatever, give us a 5-star review if you like what you're hearing. That way, we move up the charts and we can get this great content out to more and more people. So again, with that, I want to thank Laura. I want to thank you and welcome. And we'll see you next time on Your Business, Your Life. So take care and God bless. Hey, I really want to thank you for listening to the Your Business, Your Life podcast. If you want to be notified when new episodes become available, click the subscribe button below.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of High Lift Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investment, legal, or tax advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified professional with any questions you may have regarding your business or personal planning. DiFrancesco Financial Concierge, LLC, DBA High Lift Financial, is a registered investment advisor. Registration with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or any state security authority does not imply a certain level of skill or training.